and before I make my opening statement, I want you to see what happens to a child who becomes autistic. And I want you to bear in mind why I feel so strongly about this. Because my grandson was a normal child, and 2 days after, he got 9 shots in one day, several of which contained thimerosal, mercury, 40-some times the amount that was tolerable in an adult. He started acting exactly like this child. And this is what parents are going through all across this country, and they have no recourse. The vaccine injury, wait 1 second. The Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund has a 3-year statute of limitations. If they don't know within that 3-year period that their child may have been affected by these vaccines, they're out of luck. And they have no place to go but the courts. And the language that my colleagues talked about that was put in the Homeland Security bill blocks them from ever getting restitution. And those people, some are selling their homes, they're spending their life savings, working day and night trying to take care of their kids, and it's just wrong. And our government has to fess up to this, and if the pharmaceutical companies are responsible, then some way they have to aid in the compensation of these people, either through additional monies going into the Victims' Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund or some other way. And the Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund needs to be revisited very soon so that these people have access to it. To leave them high and dry is criminal in my opinion. Now I want you to see what these parents are going through with these kids. Are there still vaccines in doctors' offices right now today that contain thimerosal that are being given to children?
I don't believe so, no. As I mentioned, all vaccines for the routine recommended childhood immunization series started 2001, have been manufactured either thimerosal-free or with markedly reduced amounts of thimerosal. Now that's just the vaccines that are in the routinely recommended childhood immunization schedule. As I had mentioned, influenza vaccines, which are not part of that routinely recommended schedule, but were encouraged to be administered by the ACIP, although they're not yet part of the routine schedule, those are now available in a thimerosal trace formulation for both Evans vaccines and Aventis Pasteur vaccines. As I mentioned, Wyeth announced its intentions not to manufacture an influenza vaccine after this year, but the other two do offer this trace thimerosal presentation.
But but they still have thimerosal in them.
Yes, they still also have multi-dose vials that do contain thimerosal.
Why don't they go to single-dose vials?
I know that they are considering the feasibility of...
Well, why don't you tell them to do that?
We consider these vaccines, which also contain thimerosal as a preservative, to be safe and effective. However, we do consider that it's important to have vaccines.
Did you hear any of the testimony earlier from those people that were testifying, those scientists and doctors?
Yes, I did.
Did you see the study from Canada there that showed the damage that's done when a very minute amount of mercury is put in proximity to brain cells?
I think it's hard to extrapolate that data to what actually happens in the clinical situation.
Well, every study that's been done, Doctor, that you guys have put forth as showing that there's no correlation between thimerosal and autism, doesn't say categorically that thimerosal doesn't cause autism. They never say that. Can you tell me right now, categorically, without any doubt whatsoever, that mercury in vaccines does not cause autism?
I think what I'd have to say is what the Institute of Medicine concluded is that the body of evidence neither allows you to accept
I want you to give
nor
me
reject
I want you to give me a yes or no. Can you tell me, can you say right now, just flat out, just say, can you tell me without any doubt whatsoever that the mercury in vaccines does not cause neurological problems or autism?
We can neither accept nor reject a causal relationship.
So what you're saying is you cannot tell me that. You cannot say categorically, can you?
We don't know one way or the other. But
so why are you keeping something in there if you don't know one way or the other? When you know that there's an epidemic of autism. If there's an epidemic of something, why do you keep it in there when you're not sure? Because every study I've seen flatly says you're not sure. You say you can't say yay or nay.
I think you have to consider the benefit that vaccines confer, and there's a definite benefit from influenza vaccine. And having an adequate supply of vaccine is very important.
Okay, well, let me follow up on that then. Single-shot vials, does that need thimerosal?
No, they don't, but there are a lot
why don't we have single-shot vials?
There are a lot of manufacturing issues associated with switching over. You need much more filling capacity for the lines. You need a lot more other kinds of things that need to be introduced. So although it can be done, and both Evans and Aventis Pasteur have started to introduce that, it is not something that at present they have the capacity to do in entirety.
Let me ask you this. Do these pharmaceutical companies that produce these vaccines have had in the past the ability to produce, and have they produced single-shot vials?
Yes, they do, because that's how Evans and Aventis Pasteur is doing it right now.
How about all of the pharmaceutical companies? Do all the pharmaceutical companies pretty much have the ability to produce single-shot vials?
You know, I couldn't speak to that categorically. I don't know, but I do know certainly in the case of Aventis Pasteur and Evans that they do have that ability because they are doing that.
Then why hasn't the FDA, to be on the safe side, knowing that we're having 1 in over 250 and in some cases 1 in 150 children becoming autistic, and there's a growing body of evidence that thimerosal and mercury is causing that, why wouldn't you go down the cautious road instead of coming up with these additional studies that say, well, we're not sure, we can't say yay or nay? Why not go to single-shot vials?
Because we believe that the multi-dose vials continue to be safe and effective, and that they speak to having enough supply of influenza vaccine, which serves a very important public health
Let me just end up by
effort.
saying this. You know, I'm a student. I studied at the Cincinnati Bible Seminary. And I don't like to quote scripture very often, but there's none so blind as those that will not see. You just sit there and you keep saying over and over and over again that you think that there's not a real danger for having this mercury in these vaccines. There's been 1,500 plus articles written saying that there is a problem. We've got scientists from all over the world coming in here. You saw a demonstration from a Canadian tape showing the impact of a minute amount of mercury in brain cells, and yet you continue to say, well, we don't think that a very small amount of mercury in it, but you don't know because there's no study that you put out that I've seen, not one, that says categorically that mercury in vaccines does not cause neurological problems. You can't tell me that today. You've hedged all over that issue, and you guys just continue to keep coming up here and making excuses, and I don't understand why. Why not just get it out of there?